Romanesque beds, like so many other things, really depend on your social class. Typically, for most people, your bed will be a simple woven pallet. So it's going to be a piece of woven material laid down. You might have some kind of mattress on top of that, and that might be filled with horsehair, that might be filled with straw, any number of other materials. Sometimes it's going to be covered in a sheet of some form, but again, now we're moving into the upper classes a little bit, and there might be a simple blanket. Pillows are really kind of rare outside of upper class homes. So these simple woven pallets would be laid out generally underneath a staircase in a place that's out of the way. Oftentimes in a manor house, they will actually be laid out in the Great Hall. So it's going to be laid out in a big public space, but it's a big public space that will serve multiple purposes. Now, in the Romanesque, enclosed space is really expensive and hard to upkeep. So for that reason, you tend to see multi-use forms. We will also see a lot of co-sleeping. Typically, you would have one bed with an entire family in it for the vast majority of society. Unless you're the owner of the manor house, unless you're way up there as a lord, etc., you're not going to have an individual bed. Instead, the children, the parents, maybe even the grandparents sleep together. Now, this isn't entirely because beds are expensive, but it's more about economy. If I put everyone in the same bed, then all that body heat is working together and they can sleep warmly. And that's going to be important. If you travel to an inn, you will probably share a bed with other people that you don't know. Now, this is a positive and a negative. Again, everyone stays warm. That's good. But from the negative side, if one of you has lice, all of you have lice. If one of you has something, it's going to spread to everyone else. And if there's something in the bed, well, everyone's going to have it, be it fleas or whatever else. Now, in terms of the development of the bed, most of what we're going to be looking at here is very upper class, the lords and ladies and up. And we see the development of the couchette. Now, this is a development from the Roman banquet couch. They have simply taken the sides off of it for the most part, and it becomes effectively a day bed. Because during the day, of course, those spaces that you had slept in at night have transitioned to their daytime use, and so now you need something separate. These tend to be fairly small. They will be used sometimes for seating, but more often than not for sleeping. Then we see the bed of estate. There's a fancy way of saying your typical four-poster canopy bed. Looks beautiful, looks fancy, very misunderstood. It actually serves a very important purpose, which is to keep people warm. Now, if you're looking at this and saying, gosh, that looks familiar, it should. This is actually the painting Giovanni Arnolfini by Van Eyck, and I have simply removed the people so we can look at the bedroom. Now, this is a 15th century bedroom, so 1400s, so a little bit later than the period that we're looking at, but you see there's not a lot in the bedroom. But here's the bed, and here's the important part. These canopy beds had heavy curtains that would run along the top. This would completely enclose the space. So once you put one or two or three people in there, what it's doing is it's holding in that heat, not just under the blankets, but within the space itself. And if you add some kind of heating element, which many societies did, in the form of ceramic bottles full of hot water that would be placed in the bed prior to going to bed. Sometimes there were actually coal braziers that were designed to go into the bed. As long as it didn't get too hot, you didn't, accidentally catch fire. But there were lots of ideas to warm it up. And that's basically what we're seeing. That's the entire point of the canopy bed. Now, early on, they will use something called testers, which are bars from the ceiling that will hold those curtains in place. The curtains are not typically part of the bed in the Romanesque. That's something that we will get later on. Now, after using testers, we will start to see these wooden canopies on top, again with railing, and the idea was that you would have curtains that would run all the way around. But you'll notice that the canopy does not actually attach to the bed. The bed is back here, leaving this open space. The idea was that you could put a chest and other things in here with the bed, so that when you got up in the morning, things could be left on the chest that you could get to. Sometimes you would have a small shelf for a lamp up above you, but basically you never really wanted to get out of the bed because it's going to be particularly comfortable. All of that air is comfortable around you as well as the bedding that you're sleeping in. Now, this should seem very familiar. Here we see our Romanesque style bed on the left, and I am showing you a Kang bed from China, which we have talked about already. And you'll see that they're serving the same purpose. The Kang bed heats up by running smoke and excess heat out through it. In the Romanesque, they're doing the same thing in Europe by using the curtains and using all of that body heat that radiates out and trying to trap as much as they can to keep you warm and comfortable in that space. So really, these are two approaches to the same idea, and they're both really economical and really efficient. Kind of sad that we don't use similar ideas today.